The Eagle Has Landed, a 1976 war film directed by John Sturges, is based on Jack Higgins' novel and is an intriguing World War II spy movie whose plot is to kidnap and then perhaps assassinate Winston Churchill. Let's see if The Eagle has landed on the positive side of spy movie history. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
Of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. All right, let's decode this one and see if this eagle soars.
Dan, this movie felt more like a war movie than a spy movie to me. I mean, we can talk about it in a minute, but what are your thoughts? Is this a spy movie?
Of course, it's a spy movie. There is a lot of war movie guiding it, but as we'll talk about, there are lots of things in The Eagle Has Landed that make it a spy movie.
All right, so we'll talk about a few issues I have a little later, but let's go ahead and decode this movie.
All right, let's go. First of all, I want to say that this movie reminded me a lot of World War II spy movies in that historical facts and actions that take place within the movie are definitely twisted and turned, and in many cases have little to do with historical accuracy. So, if you're looking for a documentary on the attempt to kidnap or kill Winston Churchill, this is not it.
Yes, this is not a historical recreation or documentary. You're right. Now,
Right.
Primary mission is expressly stated as an attempt to kidnap, not kill Churchill. They should
Kill
him.
if necessary, I think
Yeah,
they said.
that's right. Yeah, they said
Yeah.
they would only kill him if necessary.
Yeah.
But they seem to get that mixed up in a scene where one of the townspeople tells someone about it and says they're here to kill Churchill.
Yeah, they could be confused.
Yeah, the goal is to capture him, not to kill him.
Yeah, right. Hey, townspeople can be confused. They don't know what's going on. All right. Now, this is a movie and a spy movie because the main characters are undercover German and civilian personnel posing as Polish paratroopers to get into Britain and to get Churchill. More in a second. It is based on the novel, the same name, as we said, by Jack Higgins.
Yeah, I think we should also point out here, Dan, that as of the time we're recording this, The Eagle Has Landed is available on Amazon Prime, at least in the U.S.
Yes, it is. All right. Now, here's a look at some of the good and the bad aspects of this movie. And there's a lot of good in this movie. The first 12 to 15 minutes of this movie set everything up for the rest of the movie, and it was done very well. Not a wasted minute. There are some similarities to other movies in this setup, too, where perhaps some renegades are selected for a mission, like The Dirty Dozen or The Secret Invasion, and so on. So I think up front,
Yeah,
guns around. So up front, I think you're going to be interested quickly in what will happen, and you'll stay interested.
And now, to me, I think we should start by highlighting this truly stellar, star-studded cast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got Michael Caine, Robert Duvall, Donald Sutherland, and others. And those guys' performances were just wonderful throughout this movie.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Michael Caine. He's just great in everything he does, and this is no exception. He plays the leader, Colonel Kurt Steiner, and does so to perfection. He is such a believable character in his thoroughness, his planning abilities, and his dedication to the very end. He is leading this team of Germans disguised as Polish paratroopers, and within minutes of watching, you see why he's in command. Steiner, even though he has a partial negative past with the Germans, and we're not going to go into all that, he's basically given free rein to get this mission done. And as a tough, ruthless German officer, he shows a much softer side at times as he tries to free a Jewish woman who was about to go to a concentration camp. This is why he was in some trouble with the ranks, and saving a small girl from a watermill. That effort showed a side you don't often see in these kinds of movies.
It would surprise me when he did that. I mean, even the German squad that he's at command of, they're holding hostages. They're generally nice to the hostages.
Yeah.
But Steiner does stay true to his mission.
Oh, yeah.
So that's Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Robert Duvall, which was a little confusing to me. Robert Duvall is Colonel Roddle, and he's a very likable character, and he's in it to the end. Well, from the German side. Duvall brings a depth and dimension to his role that is obvious to the viewer, and it adds to his character and to his role. But it seemed odd to me to see Robert Duvall in this type of a role. He performs it well.
I agree. Duvall's a great actor, but here, with an eye patch over his left eye for effect, I guess, you had to stretch your willing suspension of disbelief a little bit here to believe that he was this German Colonel Roddle. He just did not look the part to me, but he is good. He does perform well, like you said. So
That's true. And
Yeah.
so he's this Nazi officer charged with doing the research needed to see if kidnapping Churchill is feasible, how it could be done, and then if it is, invoke the plan.
Yeah.
And I like how he does his due diligence for this mission. It would be an easy one just to report back to his superiors, yeah, we can't do this. But he does the work up front and creates something called Operation Eagle. And Roddle gathers the intel that Churchill will be staying at a village near the coast. And so he starts thinking, this is possible.
Yeah.
And to help him out, he recruits IRA agent Liam Devlin, played by Donald Sutherland, who happens to teach in Berlin. And he also recruits Steiner.
Yeah. Now, Donald Sutherland, once again, we've reviewed Eye of the Needle, in which he starred, and he was fantastic in that. Here, he is equally fantastic. He's a civilian helping out the Germans with contacts. He's a civilian, but he's kind of a spy because he's an IRA agent. His role here actually reminded me of his role in Eye of the Needle. It has the same feel to it, though this role here, as Liam Devlin, preceded his role in the 1981 Eye of the Needle. So when you see both movies, I think you will agree.
I'm with you on that one, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to be both charming and devious and a killer is just so well done. He's also involved with a love interest in this one that will remind us later of his role in Eye of the Needle and a love interest there. There you go.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we mentioned Donald Pleasance. He plays Himmler. He's another one of these actors that's just good about everything he does. And he's often cited as one of the James Bond fans' most appreciated Blofelds.
Yeah.
Think of him as the forger in The Great Escape, where he's very solid.
Yes.
For me, as a Columbo fan, he played one of my favorite murderers in the series, Adrian Carcini. He was a wine producer in the
Oh,
epic
the wine one. Yeah, I remember that.
of
That was a
Any
good
Old
one.
Port in a Storm.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is when he plays Blofeld, he doesn't have a ton of expression on his face. He's very stern.
Mm-hmm.
But when he played Carcini and when he plays Himmler here, there's a lot of facial stuff you didn't get in the Bond movie
Yeah.
because the characters were different. So it
Yeah.
was really
He's
cool.
good.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see him be more animated with his face than he did as Blofeld.
Yeah, he really was outstanding as Himmler in this movie. Terrific.
Yep.
Now, their supporting cast was equally solid, with notable performances by Jenny Agutter, Treat Williams, Jean Marsh, and Larry Hagman, all contributing to the overall quality of the acting. Now, I have to say, though, Larry Hagman, I just couldn't get I Dream of Jeannie, which ran from 1965 to 1970. I couldn't get that out of my head when I was watching him act here as Colonel Clarence E. Pitts.
Oh, for me, it was J.R. Ewing.
Yeah, that too. Sorry. Now, Jenny Agutter, portraying a young Molly Pryor, she was really outstanding. She actually brought, to a degree, a sense of warmth and charm, really, to this role. Her on-screen chemistry with Donald Sutherland, his character, Liam Devlin, yeah, fantastic. It added a more human touch to the movie, a small reprieve, actually, from the action and the intent of the plot. Though she is involved with some serious scenes in this movie as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Their scenes together are really a highlight of this movie. She was 24 at the time, playing a 19-year-old. Their on-screen chemistry, like I said, second to none. It was perfection. Awesome. Emmy Award-winning actress Jean Marsh played Joanna Gray. It's a great role, and Marsh, not surprisingly, was excellent in this role. I mean, she was very real and a very believable character in this movie.
For any of you upstairs, downstairs fans, she was Rose in that series.
Ah,
But now we have to talk about a character that blew my mind when I saw him, and that's Treat Williams.
yeah.
And he plays Captain Harry Clark. And that name to me is really funny, Harry Clark, because Williams' next movie was Hair, where he played Berger. And Berger was a very anti-Vietnam War person in Hair. So it like my head exploded when we first see him on screen and he's standing there center cut of the movie with a gun in his hand and a military uniform on. I'm like,
Hey,
it's not Berger.
hey, they play a lot of characters. Come on. Now, we can't wrap up the supporting performers without calling out another person, Terrence Plummer,
Oh, yeah.
who played Arthur Seymour. Now, he was Molly's boyfriend in the movie, who was who confronted Liam, and Molly later had a serious interaction with him.
Oh yeah, that was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's some good scenes and some great dialogue around some of that interaction with Liam Sutherland's character. All right, he didn't have a huge role, but he was important to the plot. And spy movie fans will know his acting from his work in Tomorrow Never Dies and The Man with the Golden Gun, and as a stunt performer in 7 James Bond movies, and The Heroes of Telemark, The Dirty Dozen, and Where Eagles Dare. We love seeing the stunt performers get lines too in an acting role, so that's cool. All right.
These are the main players in the story. I mean, there's obviously a bunch of other people, but these are the
Yeah,
main
yeah, yeah.
you need to watch out for.
Right. All right. Now, the plot is about a mission called Operation Eagle, as we mentioned. So it involves the German commandos dressed as Polish paratroopers to infiltrate the village where they believe Churchill will be staying. They literally have Polish uniforms on over their German uniforms. Underneath, however, they retain their German uniforms to avoid being shot as spies if they are captured. In reality, a lot of this kind of thing went on in World War II. They aimed to kidnap Churchill with the help of Liam Devlin before making their escape by a captured motor torpedo boat.
Let's look at the plot and how the story unfolds.
Okay. All right. Actually, before we do this, let's give some shout outs to a couple of our listeners who gave us feedback on recent episodes. Bill Canis, who gave us feedback on our episodes on Rachel Grant, and Jim Phelps, who gave us feedback on our most recent episode about fan favorite James Bond scenes. All right. Thanks, guys. Keep the feedback coming. We love hearing from you guys. Thanks.
We're going to look at this, how the story unfolds. And my question is this an engaging plot?
Mm-hmm.
The story of this attempt to kidnap Churchill is intriguing, and it does keep us viewers engaged, waiting to see what will happen next. Is this something like Inglourious Bastards, where non-history happened? Or is it, i.e., they did capture him? Or are they killed in the pursuit, and maybe this was a mission nobody knew about?
This is fiction, as we said, even though during the war there was a plan called Operation Long Jump with the elite German commando Otto Skorzeny, who was given the mission to eliminate Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt when they met together in Tehran. Yeah. Was this Sorensen good? He is the commando who orchestrated the bold rescue of deposed Italian dictator Benito Mussolini in September 1943. So, yeah, the Allies knew this guy, and Hitler selected him personally for that mission. So,
Right. So knowing this
yeah,
is fiction, the story is different than what happened or was at least planned in reality. The
yes,
Nazi plans were discovered and the operation didn't take place, as we know
in real life.
in the real life story.
Yeah,
So here we have a story in The Eagle Has Landed whose plot unfolds before us. But we know historically that Churchill was never captured or killed by the Germans. So it kind of gives it away a little.
well,
So
yeah,
they have to have a compelling story to show the attempt.
yeah.
And it is a compelling story, carefully staged and well acted.
Well, look, it's like the Titanic, right? When that movie came out in, what was that, 1997 or something? Everybody knew the Titanic sank. But you have to build another story around it to make people watch the movie and think, okay, there's other intrigue that's going to be that we're going to see, and that's what they're doing here too.
Well, and there have been a couple other movies that have talked about failed missions to try to assassinate Hitler
Yeah,
or fictional ones. So
yeah,
you've got Inglourious Bastards. In that
there you
movie,
go.
Hitler, Goebbels, and many other Nazi leaders were all killed. So
Yeah,
even though they were killed in the movie theater, we know they weren't killed in real life. So we had to have a willing suspension of disbelief, as
yeah,
we have to here.
yeah.
And also in the recently released movie Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin, that was about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a real world pastor.
Mhm.
He allegedly was one of the people behind the July 20th, 1944 plot to assassinate Adolf Hitler. And that was a real plot. That
That
was
was a real plot. Yeah,
the movie takes some liberties, but the plot behind it and Bonhoeffer being involved in it was accurate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's look at the dialogue too, because I thought there were some moments in this movie where the dialogue I thought was spectacular, and there are other moments where the dialogue limps a little, I think. But,
And it
but
can't, every line can't be a gem.
no. For example, some of the good stuff, when Liam is fighting another guy and the priest is watching, Liam tells the priest not to worry that he's teaching this guy about the Holy Trinity, footwork, timing, and hitting. And a little dirty work, he says. It's like, okay, that was a great line because he's saying this as he's fighting this guy and he's beating this guy easily. So that was cool. And another, when Steiner compliments Liam Devlin, telling him, "You are an extraordinary man," Liam retorts, "And you are an extraordinary judge of character."
Now that was one of those lines that it was such a great line from Sutherland. I can also
Yes.
totally hear Michael Caine saying that when he's Harry Palmer.
Yeah, 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 that's true too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was great. That was a great line. So anyway, some of the dialogue is fantastic.
Yeah. All right. So we got good dialogue. If this is going to be a wartime spy movie, there better be suspense and action. I mean, this movie successfully builds suspense throughout,
Yes.
delivers thrilling and well executed action sequences. They're not over the top, but they feel pretty realistic. And it
Yeah.
has plenty of action and tension to keep you entertained and wanting to see what will happen next.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little romance in this movie, and but it's for the most part gratuitous, I think. I mean, there's some interest there, but it's not overwhelming or anything.
Yeah,
Right.
and I liked how they kept that to a minimum. It was just enough to set up what they needed to set up,
Yeah.
but not too much.
Yeah.
And the romance was important to this movie,
Yes.
unlike in The Heroes of Telemark.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
to me, it works like this.
Yeah, and actually, as we said before, those were the scenes between Liam Devlin and Molly Pryor, Jenny Aguilar, and Donald Sutherland. Those are great scenes. So we love that those are in this movie.
Yep, I agree. Now, we talked about the suspension action being a positive. I actually thought that the battle towards the end was too long for what it was.
Hmm.
When I watched the movie the second time, because I always watch them at least twice before we do these,
Yeah, I did too.
I actually found myself fast forwarding through some of that action.
Yeah, see, that didn't bother me at all. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, there were a few, maybe one or two grenades that could have been, eliminated, but but other than that, I thought it was pretty good. All right, now let's look at the whole production quality of this movie. Sometimes you get great production quality, sometimes you don't. This movie is well crafted with meticulous attention to detail, offering really a visually appealing experience throughout the whole movie. It
What
it's
do you
good.
what do you expect? Peter Merton was the production designer.
Peter
He was
Burton.
also the production designer on The Man with the Golden Gun, Death on the Nile, Superman 2 and 3. Of course, our favorite, Spies Like Us.
Yeah.
He was the art director on Goldfinger, Thunderball, Doctor Strangelove, The Ipcris File, and Funeral in Berlin. So we've seen Merton's work in many big spy movies, and he
Yeah.
delivers here.
He knows what he's doing. All of the sets, props, and costumes were really well done. The battle zones and skirmishes were first rate. And you'll see a great use of buildings under fire, like the church, and you will see and believe that these battles are going on. It was really done well. There are very competent personnel on both sides of the battle, and on the Allies side, there's a not so competent officer.
Yeah, that was Larry Hagman, the one you couldn't get Ed Genie out
Yeah,
of your head.
Captain
And I kept
Clarence,
thinking J.R. Ewing
Captain Clarence Pitts. I mean Anthony Nelson. Okay, all right. I dream of Genie. Okay.
or J.R. Ewing.
Or you, yeah, yeah. All right. Some of the locations, like the English village and various wartime locations, are meticulously crafted and seem to reflect the period accurately, which allows us, again, to be immersed in the period. I love when you feel that you're in the scene. I love it. It's great.
They do a great job with that.
Yeah. And then we talked a little bit, we mentioned the detailed props and the costumes. When you look at the props and the costumes used in this movie, it's so well researched and it adds again to the overall realism of the movie. And you never felt like anything was out of place. There probably were some pieces out of place, like it might have been a wrong vehicle or whatever, but I mean, you never feel that in the movie. And I don't know that that is true, but you never get the feeling that just watching the movie that anything is out of place. From military uniforms to everyday items, the attention to detail is evident throughout this movie, and it adds depth to the telling of the story. So, and then the costume design, yeah, the costume designer was Yvonne Blake. So,
She did a good
yeah,
job there. I mean, and
yeah,
so all of these production designs, they create this atmosphere which helps define this tense and suspenseful movie. I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of visual appeal to the movie, enhanced by the high production values, making it a visually engaging experience that brings you into the story. And again,
yeah,
Peter Merton, he's the production designer. Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, even the DP of photography, Anthony Richmond, was first rate with great camera angles, lighting, and everything.
Yeah. You see the ruthlessness of the war depicted convincingly on the screen. Details like the water wheel, the roads, and the vehicles were all done well. The unfolding of the story had a few twists and turns, and it shows the dedication on both sides to do their jobs no matter what. I love that. It was fantastic. I'm always amazed when you see great lighting in movies, whether it's the natural light with sun and shady areas to internal lighting where it's done right, revealing just what they want to reveal in the scene and focusing your attention on what they want you to focus on. It's just terrific. And it was like that here. This movie delivers on that all the way through. Lighting on faces, too, was just outstanding. And again, delivers more depth to the shots. Props to Anthony Richmond again.
Absolutely. Okay, Dan, let's talk about the music. And you're more into the score of a movie than I normally am. So, what'd you think about the music here?
The thing with music in movies, I thought the music here throughout the movie blended very nicely with the scenes, and again, afforded the viewer the pleasure of the music enhancing the scenes and not dominating the scenes. I I think that's hard to do. Of course, the music here was done by let's see, Lalo Schifrin.
Mr. Mission Impossible. Yeah, I think if
Yeah,
he's doing it, it's going to probably be a good score.
yeah, it was good. It was
All
good.
right, so those are the positives, and it's difficult to criticize this movie for its entertainment value. Again, it's not historically accurate in virtually any way, but it is an entertaining movie. But some critics do find fault with it. Dan, what was one thing that needed help in this movie?
You said it's not historically accurate. The author said that it's 50% accurate, 50% not. It's like, no. You want to show me the 50% that's accurate. I mean, did they have Jeeps in the war? Yeah, they had Jeeps in the war. Did they have guns? Yeah, they had guns. Okay, that part's accurate. Beyond that, no, I don't think so. He'd be hard pressed to show us the 50%. But anyway, the bad, something, of course, what else are critics going to say? Pacing issues.
There you go. Like I said, that one fight, I just was,
Hey,
I
I
didn't need
mean,
to be as long as it was.
the movie has a runtime of 2 hours and 3 minutes, so it's not a quick view. Some critics feel the movie drags in parts, making it feel longer than its runtime. Well, in viewing it, it probably could have maybe been trimmed. I don't know, maybe 5 to 8 minutes, maybe. It would be hard to cut stuff though, I think. But really, it would not have made a lot of difference if you cut a few minutes here and there. The runtime is what it is, and I think you can say that about most movies that they drag in parts. Well, some do and some do not. Casablanca, for instance, it's a masterpiece. There's no downtime at all. And don't cut a damn second from that movie. And so it's the same thing.
Let's see.
It's-
What's your favorite movie, Dan? Oh, that's right, Casablanca.
yeah. And The Great Escape, too, is like that as well. It's just perfect. It's a perfect movie. There is a handful of movies that are just like that. And everyone can think of one that's like that, that they think, hey, I love this movie. Don't change a thing in it. I mean, my cousin Vinny was like that, too, of comedy. That was funny. Every minute is just great. It's just
Well,
great.
and I mean, we do talk about pacing issues pretty much when we talk about every movie we talk
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it just must be really hard to do that well.
It's probably impossible to do it perfectly, other than the few movies we just mentioned, and everyone else, like I said, has a movie that they think might be.
All right, the next area, and this time it's not the pacing, it's predictability.
Yeah.
There are certain plot points that are seen as predictable, which can distract from the overall suspense of the story unfolding. We know the
Yeah.
ultimate operation never happened in real life, so we know that this operation is going to fail, or they're going to give us a fictitious ending with Churchill being captured. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
So it's how it fails and how the story unfolds that matters to us here.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And again, I'll refer back to Inglorious Bastards, right? So we didn't know what would happen, but you go with it when you watch.
Yeah. I mean, there are some elements predictable. I could think of a couple of plot points where you might be thinking ahead, saying, I bet this happens or that happens. One in particular, is coming. But otherwise, I think there are enough twists to it to keep it fresh and to keep us guessing a little bit. There were a couple of early reveals that could have been skipped, I think, like the priest tunnel and so on, but I'm not going to say anything else about that. All right.
Yeah, and I did like the last twist. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah,
And that one surprised me. It was not foreshadowed, at least in my watching.
yeah. And, oddly enough, that's based on one thing that was historically accurate. I'm not going to say what it was, but yeah, okay. So there you go, Jack Higgins. All right. All right, let's talk about character development. We always have to talk about character development because no one's ever happy with all of the character development in any movie. It's always an issue.
Well,
There are
character development and pacing go hand in hand. If you
yeah,
do
yeah,
too much character development, the movie's going to drag.
yeah. There you go. There are criticisms about the lack of depth of character development, making it hard to connect with some characters, which I think is true here. As we said, in most movies, it's true also. Not every character can be fleshed out in a couple of hours, but I think they chose which ones to flesh out the most, and they did a decent job of it in this movie. The first 12 to 15 minutes are solid for this, and you really feel you know Sutherland as Liam Devlin and Caine as Steiner. Maybe would have liked more from Molly. I think that would have been interesting. But then again, hey, you have to choose.
You always want to see more of the pretty women.
She was a doll. And how about historical accuracy as a criticism? Are you kidding? It's a movie. This movie takes liberties with historical facts. Yeah, which might bother some viewers looking for a more accurate portrayal of events. But geez, come on. What it's fiction. What the heck? Go go watch a documentary if there is one on this. If you want historical accuracy. This is fiction. It's a movie. It's a story, a fictional story. All right. What what I want accurate is the setting of the World War II, the planes, the vehicles, the weapons, and so on. That should be as close as possible to accurate, and I think that, as we mentioned before, they did an outstanding job on that.
All right, so those are the negatives. Let's talk about some of the fun facts we find about movies. Right?
Yeah.
So the first one is Michael Caine was originally offered the role of Liam Devlin, but he declined it because he didn't want to play an IRA member.
Yeah.
So
True.
instead, he requested to play Colonel Steiner, who Richard Harris was initially cast for. But Harris had to drop out after attending some controversial fundraiser.
I don't know what that was, but okay.
But for me, this movie would have had an extremely different feel with Richard Harris as Steiner.
Yeah, I think so
I
too.
mean, totally different feel.
Yeah. Now,
So,
you're talking about Michael Caine. He was outstanding in this movie, as we said, but he was also not totally satisfied with this movie because he claims in his autobiography that the director, John Sturges, told him that he was only doing it for the money so he can go deep sea fishing, which of course was very expensive. And according to Caine, yeah, oh, hey, why not? And according to Caine, he never came back for the edits or the post production stuff that directors usually do. So Michael Caine thought, hey, it was a really good movie, but it could have been an absolutely fantastic movie. Well, it
yeah,
was a
it's too
damn good
bad
movie.
because this novel was a massive success. I mean, it sold over 50 million copies, making the author, Jack Higgins, famous overnight. And it
Yeah,
would have been nice if this director gave a damn.
yeah. You know, we like our filming locations too. So The Eagle Has Landed was shot in various locations across England, including Maple Durham in Oxfordshire, which stood in for the fictional village of Studley Constable, which they mentioned in the movie. And we mentioned
I
the
love that
water
name,
wheel.
Studley Constable.
Yeah. My name is Constable, Studley Constable. Yeah. And we mentioned the water wheel mill earlier, and the water mill where the girl gets rescued is the same one on the cover of Black Sabbath's first album.
Oh,
So it's real.
wow.
It's real. Yeah, it's a real water mill in a real town. It's in the village of Maple Durham. And the church we also mentioned, where the hostages are kept and where a battle ensues, it's just across the road from it. So that's a real church as well. And here's another cool thing. In this movie, a stuntman kills himself.
Wait, what? A stuntman kills himself? How'd
Yeah,
that happen?
yeah. There were few stunt personnel available for this movie, apparently. And so this one guy, Jim Dowdle, he plays a German soldier who shoots and kills the driver of an American Jeep, which then crashes into the pond. Jim, this guy, played both the German who shot the driver and the driver who goes into the water. So that's pretty cool.
You have to love how movies are made. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is, this was John Sturgis's last movie he directed. Seems like
Yes.
lost interest, right? He did classics everyone knows, like The Great Escape and The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Those were two absolutely fantastic movies that were just about flawless.
Yes, those are fantastic movies. There are also some influences here where other movies may have influenced The Eagle Has Landed. The first is the way Colonel Steiner's team parachutes in to infiltrate the village. We saw something like this in the 1968 movie Where Eagles Dare, another Eagles movie, where they parachute into a Nazi stronghold. And of course, in Thunderball, the parachute team lands in the water for the big underwater battles. Steiner's team landed on the water as well in The Eagle Has Landed.
Yeah, and we also saw in The Longest Day parachuting coming in. So you
Yeah.
see that a lot because it was a fairly effective way to get people in wartime. Now, another plot line that seems to come from earlier spy movies, and we still see today, and this is kind of a stretch, but is that there's an undercover agent who uses an alias and assumes the identity of another person. So be it James Bond, sometimes some of the characters like in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, Secret Agent, you see this type of behavior out of an agent where they don't give his real name, except James Bond tends to like Bond James Bond a lot.
Yeah, he does. All right. There's some earlier war movies that blend espionage also with war, which is kind of cool. The Guns in Navarone, The Heroes of Telemark, The Spy in Black, Cube Planes, and The Silent Enemy are just some of the movies that may have influenced this one.
All right, so those are some of the influencers, and I'm going to go back to the beginning of this episode when I asked you, Dan, if The Eagle Has Landed is a spy movie, and you instantly said it was.
Yeah.
And I'll give you that there's some espionage with a covert operation, and people do go undercover in it.
Okay.
But the plot focus is more on military strategy rather than espionage. Think about the work Roddle does before greenlighting this project. You see that in more military movies than spy movies. And well, maybe except for the Mission Impossible series, where a feasibility study is key for their missions. And in Mission Impossible's case, the less feasible the mission seems to be, the more Ethan Hunt wants to take it on.
Yeah, okay.
The characters are either townspeople or military people, not classic secret agents.
Okay.
So the guy most like a secret agent is Liam, but the rest are military folks. So is this really a spy movie from that perspective? And then finally, the wartime setting and the military operation inhibit this movie from being a total spy movie. So there are some spy elements in this movie. I'll give you that. Maybe I'll agree that this is a spy movie, but it's not like most spy movies we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, look, the concept of spying and military operations, there was a ton of spying going on by military people in World War II. So,
Okay, so if spying makes it a spy movie, The Mole
Yeah.
Agent was a spy movie,
hey,
which
Mole
you said it wasn't.
Mole Agent was a detective movie, but nonetheless, the Steiner group they're spies behind the enemy line. Not only behind the enemy line, they're in England to kidnap Churchill. And at one point, they do refer to Liam as a spy. And Steiner said that they're going to wear their German uniforms under the Polish ones so that if they are caught, they will not be treated as spies and perhaps executed. So there you go. So they knew they were spies. So
I'll give you it's a spy movie, but it's very different than what we normally see for a spy movie.
yeah, and it's an entertaining one though. So that's it. Overall, The Eagle Has Landed is a solid war movie with a mix of strengths and weaknesses, with certain spy elements that even Tom agrees with that permeated the entire storyline. We liked it, and we think you will too.
I agree.
Well, The Eagle Has Landed, so that's a wrap. This has been Dan
And Tom.
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Subscribe to our show right now while you're thinking about it. That helps us out a lot. Thanks for spending time with us. We appreciate it.